Steve, there's one question here in the chat about the Colorado State quarterback situation. Do we know who the Rams are going with?
They brought in Clay Millen from Nevada, who was Carson Strong's backup last year. Really didn't play much just because Carson Strong was very durable, didn't miss time. And Clay Millen did check in last year when Nevada beat Colorado State 52-10. So he was on the other side of that matchup, and he's following Jay Norvell to Colorado State. So we don't know too much about him. He was a 4-star quarterback from 24/7 Sports, according to their recruiting. Pocket passer type quarterback, it appears. And so it's pretty much like throwing out a true freshman, it feels like, just with the amount of experience he's had in his career. Their previous quarterback, Todd Centeio, transferred to James Madison, who is our newest FBS program.
Okay. I saw that, he was the starting quarterback last year. There was a receiver that I wanted to mention, Dante Wright. Is that correct? Let's see. Yes, wide receiver.
22.
Yeah, he's not a very big guy, but he was pretty productive last year for Colorado State, and I'm assuming that role will probably even grow with Trey McBride, moving on to the NFL. I was looking at the receiving leaders in each game, and I think every single game except for like 2 or 3, it was Trey McBride was the leading receiver. So he seemed to get a volume of all of those, targets and catches, which deservedly so. He's an NFL player. But what are your thoughts on, Dante Wright and just kind of what we can expect to see from him, as far as throughout the season for Colorado State?
Yeah, Dante Wright was a really electrifying player, especially when he first came on campus. In that 2019 season, back when they had Patrick O'Brien at quarterback and Mike Bobo at head coach, they really utilized him kind of in a Dexter McCluster type role, if you remember him at Ole Miss, where he was kind of a hybrid running back receiver, and he was a frequent rushing option for the team, and that really didn't persist into the Adazio era. I'm looking at his stats. Yeah, he had 214 rushing yards in his freshman season on top of a career-high 805 receiving yards. He's 5'9", really fast guy. He's definitely a playmaker in that regard, and he also held punt return duties that year. So I think you saw Dante Wright at his peak as a freshman, and he has kind of not been able to put up the same number since. But you're hoping a guy like Jay Norvell, who really worked with some star receivers like Romeo Doubs at Nevada, can really get him back into the offense. I also think that they lose some of their receivers from last year, but they also get Melquan Stovall from Nevada, who was a good secondary receiver for the Wolfpack next year. And I think that Stovall's game serves as a really good complement to Dante Wright's game. He's another small, fast receiver at 5'8" that they have there.
Okay, perfect. Well, it'll be an interesting one. I know Michigan fans are really excited, as they should be. Coming off of an amazing year, and one that you look back at it and just turn by turn and week by week, it was just improving, getting better, and kind of stacking wins is kind of the thing that I kept mentioning. But as far as heights, like, what do you think Michigan potentially could do this year, with Cade McNamara and JJ McCarthy both coming back, and just the weapons that they have? What do you think their ceiling could be this year?
Well, the ceiling would be the college football playoff again. I like the returning pieces on offense. I know Cade McNamara was probably the biggest question with the offense, but usually you see a lot of development in a quarterback from year 2 to year 3, especially. I'm thinking of some quarterbacks across the nation last year, like Clayton Tune in Houston. He's someone who McNamara kind of reminded me of his first few years at Michigan, and Clayton Tune really made that jump, and you saw how the Houston Cougars improved last year. I think if McNamara can make that jump, he has a great receiving core. Blake Corum was a Heisman candidate after the first 3 weeks last year, the way he was running the football. But defensively, they have a lot of guys that they have to replace. Aiden Hutchinson being the big one, Dax Hill in there. I think the best player on this defense is probably Junior Colson at this point, who had a spectacular freshman campaign as just a good run stopper for this Michigan team. So I think this team could compete for a Big Ten title, that Ohio State offense is certainly looking scary, and I'm going to pick Ohio State to win it. But in terms of who I think the second best Big Ten team is right now, it's probably between Michigan and Wisconsin, and I'd probably give the edge to the Wolverines right now, considering how they played last season.
Yeah, it'll be. I think everybody's going to be circling that game in late November with Ohio State and Michigan. It'll be an interesting one. But I think even too coming into this year, if you made me call that game before the season started, like I probably would have picked Ohio State as well. So that's the great thing about football is you just never know. But Steve, as far as for yourself, do you have a favorite team or anything like that you follow, or is it just college football overall in general?
I follow all 130. I guess it'll be 131 once I learn more about James Madison coming to the Sun Belt here. I did grow up a diehard Penn State fan, though. That's where my parents went. I used to go to the games, the whiteouts there, so that was always fun. And now I'm based in Houston, so I'm usually at Rice and Houston games. I also went to college at University of Texas, so another big program there with the Longhorns that gets a lot of media attention and hype. Michigan finally lived up to their hype last year. Actually, last year, I think they were preseason unranked because of how bad they were in the pandemic season. I remember saying after that Western Michigan game, and especially the NIU game, I said, this team for once is really underhyped, and this is going to be a great team, because I knew how good Western Michigan's offense was with Caleb Ellaby, and I saw what Michigan was able to do to that in week one, and I saw how Michigan took it to the MAC champs and NIU by putting up 63 points and 9 straight possessions on them. So I thought Michigan last year seemed underhyped at the beginning of the year, and they really exceeded it. So that was a really impressive job by Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines, bouncing back from that 2020 pandemic season.
Yeah, and I think sometimes with the Michigan team is they have the confidence, and I think some years it kind of borders on the arrogance, and really you can look at the leaders of the team for that. Like I was the one that looked at a guy like Rashawn Gary, who was immensely talented, but you didn't see the production on the field versus a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. And I felt like having that coming into the season unranked, I think gave them that chip on the shoulder. The leaders on the team were just the type of just work hard guys. Like we're not here to to talk. You didn't see a lot of those guys in front of microphones, things like that. It was just we're a team. We're just gonna come in, work, put our heads down, and do what we need to do, and we'll let the chips fall where they may. So